Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another keynote session during Birmingham Tech Week and day number 4. And really looking forward to this session because we talked a lot during this week about technology, digital innovation, digital transformation, and the future, really. But of course, all of that is kind of pointless, right? Without customers, without building those right relationships, generating revenue, and also focusing on results. So I'm delighted to be joined by Lisa, James, and Chris, who I will introduce you to very shortly. But before I do, again, a big thank you to our partners who we're running this week in association with Tech Nation, West Midlands Growth Company, and Department for International Trade. A big thank you to all the work they do across the UK in the West Midlands, and also kind of supporting kind of Birmingham-based businesses to export their products and services, but also encouraging inward investment into the region as well. And a big thank you to our 2020 sponsors as well, especially to our kind of lead sponsor and headline sponsor, NatWest, for all the work they do across the region, especially through their Entrepreneur Accelerator. And a big thanks to Copper, Culture Group, BGSS, Sidetrade, and BMET as well. And our 2020 partners, great support from across private and public sector, great support from DCMS, and a big shout out to Tech UK, who have their session coming up on the future of UK digital strategy. So looking forward to that one. So now I'd like to introduce you to our panelists for today. So we've got Lisa Vicary, who is the Head of Customer Experience at the wonderful Prince's Trust, obviously do so much for so many young people. James John Lewis, who is a Chief Commercial Officer at Zoom EV, and Christopher Purdie, the Group Commercial Director at PM Connect. Welcome all. So we're going to get started, and I'm going to ask Lisa, first of all, to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, and also for work at the Prince's Trust as well.
Yeah, so as you say, I work for the Prince's Trust, which I love saying. I love I love my job there. Yeah, the trust, as lots of you know, supports young people to find employment or to stay in education, and we do that through delivery of programmes and content, just to support young people really with their goals. So I'm responsible for a number of things. So ongoing, like monitoring and management of programme delivery performance. So just making sure that all of our operations colleagues are supported with the right tools and resources to deliver high quality programmes to young people. I also have oversight of our customer service team, so our live chat, telephone, email function, first port of call for lots of our young people and referrers and volunteers, and also responsible for putting young people's voices at the centre of our decision making. And I have a lot of background in customer experience. I worked for a SaaS company, software as a service, I'm sure you all know, for about 7 years before I came to this role. So yeah, that's me.
Thanks, Lisa. And really keen to kind of get your experience from a kind of working for a SaaS company and then making that transition over to Brandside in such a unique organisation as for Prince's Trust as well. So keen to kind of understand a little bit more about that later on. So Christopher, can I get you to kind of introduce yourself as well?
Hi Yanis, thank you for the intro and thanks for having me. Really pleased to be here today. So I'm Chris Purdie, Group Commercial Director at PM Connect. And to give you a quick intro to PM Connect, our mantra is making in-demand content accessible to all. What does that translate as a business? We work with sports and lifestyle brands from all over the world that want to get their content into the hands of as many consumers as possible, and we do that for them through telco partnerships. So work with mobile operators all around the world, and through marketing and mobile payments, we get branded content out to the people that want it. We're a Birmingham HQ business, so the business was born here. It started out as 3 people, an almost bedroom business. That was 8 years ago. We've grown to 60 staff based here in Birmingham today. I also have staff in the commercial team all around the world, so in Dubai, in Cape Town, in Paris, and we have an entity over in Singapore to serve Asia. So we've expanded all over the world in that time. We now do about 10 million mobile payments a month, and the outreach that we now have for our brand partners like the NBA and WWE is about 700 million consumers around the world through partnerships with 40 different telcos. We picked up a few awards along the way, you know, whether it's been at a local level with some of the Birmingham Tech Awards and Silicon Canal Awards, right up to being in the Sunday Times Tech Track for 2 years in a row, Deloitte Fast 50, and we recently, just last week, for the second year in a row, picked up Best Merchant at the Global Carrier Billing Summit, where our mobile partners vote for their best merchants around the world. So really pleased with the journey that the business has been on. We're continuing to grow, we're continuing to recruit in the commercial team. I really look after our whole partnerships operations, both on the brand and the carrier side. That's from bringing in new deals to nurturing the business with all of our existing partners. So about 15 people in the team, dotted a little bit around the world and constantly growing.
That's great. Thanks, Chris. And great, another kind of Birmingham success story there. And of course, part of this week, well, yesterday, in fact, was our scale-up day. So I know the audience are really keen to hear a little bit about kind of the secrets that kind of underpin your success. And we'll pick up on some of those during the conversation today. And last but not least, we have James Jean-Louis from Zoom EV. And James, yeah, please introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit more about what you do.
Yeah, hi everybody. My name's James Jean-Louis. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer at Zoom EV, and I'm delighted to be asked to join this session, so thank you very much. So Zoom EV is an electric mobility as a service. We talked about SaaS, so here's MaaS, which is mobility as a service, and specifically electric mobility as a service. And that business was formed in 2018. And I personally got responsibility for the business development at Zoom EV. So just a bit about my background. I've actually been in the automotive sector for, dare I say, nearly 30 years now. And 10 years ago, I founded one of the first electric vehicle car charging supply and installation companies in the UK. And that's going back to a time when there were only 5 plug-in cars on the market. So, you know, really, really early stages. And I was really at the start of that. And the story, the connection is that I was actually doing some work for Jaguar Land Rover within charging, but albeit in 12-volt charging. So, you know, your traditional battery charging that you would think of. And I was at Gaydon at the tech centre, the development centre down at Gaydon. And this is, bearing in mind, this is 2009. And I was shown a Range Rover Sport in a sort of almost like a laboratory type condition room. And I was told, James, that is the future. And it was a plug-in hybrid prototype that Jaguar Land Rover developed. So that was my introduction to where the future was. And that was kind of the light bulb moment for me. So as I say, 10 years ago, 2010, I started a company, Charging Solutions, and was one of the first in that sector. So I built that business up over the next 3 or 4 years. And in 2014, I sold Charging Solutions to ChargeMaster PLC, which at the time was the largest charge point manufacturer and provider, and also a public charging network provider in the UK. And then I was appointed as their group commercial director, and for the next 4 years, up until 2018, helped build up that business into, you know, the entity that it was as ChargeMaster. And in 2018, as some of you will know, BP bought ChargeMaster. So I was part of the team that helped sell that business to BP. And I guess that in itself, in 8 years from when they were just 5 electric or plug-in cars on the market to being taken over by an entity, one of the world's largest companies, and an oil and gas company, such as BP, just shows how important this sector, the EV sector, is. So I stayed with BP until the summer of last year, and I'd been introduced to Zoom's founder, a guy called Greg Fairbotham, who coincidentally also used to work with at BP, but he was involved in what's called upstream, having worked in the Middle East and Shetland Islands. So I was introduced to him through a third party and really understood the vision for mobility as a service. So I personally then invested in that business and joined the board. So technically, having joined Zoom, I've kind of gone from startup full circle to selling my business, then selling the business that I sold to BP and joining a startup. Back then, Zoom EV was 3 people. We're now 7. We made a new appointment last week, so we're now 7 on the team, and we have huge plans for the future. So a little bit about Zoom. So we recognise the shift to electric vehicles, and we now provide a mobility service that includes a unique car sharing platform that utilises idle vehicles and also generates revenue. Statistically, cars sit idle for something like 95% of their time. So being able to utilise that asset, and in our case, only electric or plug-in vehicles, is hugely beneficial to the environment and obviously the way that we drive around. And as difficult a time as we've been through and are going through with COVID-19, car sharing and the intelligent use of an electric vehicle is becoming more important to people. We also offer an electric and plug-in vehicle sourcing proposition, whether it's for fleets, for individuals, and we have a whole range of solutions that covers that. And then we have a unique, what we call an EV driver's benefits bundle that brings together all of the essential things that you'd need as an electric car driver. Because as you can imagine, there's things to consider: charging at home, public charging, having the right energy tariff at home, and even where you park, because you need to think about charging. So we have a unique bundle that brings together everything you need at discounted prices. And then if you take up those offers, you can then save something like £1,000 a year in the first year. So it's really beneficial. And we work with auto dealers and people at the point of sale of an electric vehicle where that bundle gets included. And we actually help people sell electric cars as well. And then finally, we have a Zoom electric vehicle insurance package as well. So that's a brief intro to me and what I'm currently involved in at Zoom.
And what a great journey you've had. And I want to kind of delve in a little bit more again to your journey and some of the kind of insights you've learned along the way. But also kind of obviously, one of our themes this week is green tech. It's something that all of us need to be considering. So it's great to see a business kind of using technology and innovation to help us all become more sustainable, but not just from a pure technology point of view, but also understanding that, we have got all these cars that are idle. How do we make more use of them so people don't need as many vehicles on the road at any given time? So thanks for that, James. So I'm going to start off by going to Lisa, really. And Lisa, I know that kind of from a conversation prior to this, we were talking about how the Prince's Trust has multiple stakeholders. How do you go about effectively engaging those stakeholders to ensure that the organisation understands the importance of customer experience, but more importantly, they understand what they can do to deliver that?
Yeah, so I think for me, it all really starts with having a really clear vision about what you want to deliver around experience. So when I joined the Trust, one of the first things I did was ask all of our staff, like, who do you think our customers are? And what type of experience do you think that we're delivering? And the answers that came back were so varied. A big long list of who our stakeholders are. There are lots at the Trust, actually. And also so much variance in what they thought the experience we should be delivering should be, which was good, because that gave us a bit of something to go off in terms of creating a aligned vision, and we did that cross-functionally, so getting members from each and every team, so even those that kind of think, how am I related to this, you know, our legal teams and our finance teams all came together, and we created vision statement for the organisation and for young people, which we validated with our young people as well, and that's become embedded in our business planning activities, and just something that we refer to just make sure that everyone is aligned on what it is we are trying to deliver. And I think as well, given my background in customer experience technology, I'm a huge advocate of really effective software. So not only collecting experience data, but and distributing reporting, but being able to distribute insights. So actionable insight as well, that is tailored towards the teams or groups that you are reporting back to is really, really useful. And I think leveraging that type of technology in the organisation is priceless, really.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting point, because you know we talk a lot about big data, and you know, more than ever we've got access to so much kind of information and insight.
Yeah.
However, the point you make about actionable data, I think is such a sound one, because you know, unless you're going to do something with it and use it within your business, use it to improve the customer experience, it's kind of pointless, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Thanks for that. And then kind of Chris, kind of building on kind of from that around the customer experience, you know, you work with some really cool brands. I've got to say, you know, growing up in the 90s, I was a massive fan of, well, WWF as it was once called, and obviously WWE. So probably going to tap you up afterwards for some tickets, but we'll put that to one side for a minute. What obviously engaging with these brands, key to the customer experience is making sure that it's consistent along the customer journey. At PM Connect, how do you go about doing that?
Look, great question, and you're quite right. We work with a lot of different brands, and we then take them into a lot of different countries with a lot of different mobile operators. And I guess I'd describe our approach as consistently bespoke, in that every single mobile operator we connect into has a different tech stack that we have to approach in a completely different way. And the job of our 30-strong development team here is bringing that all into the systems here at PM Connect, so we can offer a consistent solution to the brand partners we then go and work with. Yeah, how does that work at a day-to-day level? We put dedicated tech staff onto every new integration that we do. We don't offer, you know, a sort of a help desk and a ticket system. We put a crack team on every new integration, and the customer, in this case being the mobile operator, has a single line of communication with us until we go live. That then translates at a commercial level into having dedicated account managers for every partner we've got out there. And we try and make sure that the same account manager stays with that partner through the lifetime of the account. You know, I say consistently bespoke. We do things in a lot of different places, and you know, what the WWE need to go live in the Middle East can be very, very different to what maybe the NBA need to go live in Africa. You know, one of the key things we do as a business is really accompany these brands in the new markets that they want to grow in, and really work with them on a strategy about building their audience, and that can mean a lot of different things. Certainly, you know, we're in the OTT space. We're all used to having, you know, perhaps a subscription to a Netflix or a Spotify at a pretty straight, you know, $9.99 offer. And we really work with our partners to tailor that to the markets they're going into. You know, if I take The African example, we translate those offers into maybe daily pricing, so that users pay a very small increment every day, because monthly just doesn't work there. Other ways we do things very bespoke is we actually work with partners to tailor their content so that what they're putting out isn't exactly the same in every country they go into. And again, to use the example of WWE, what really appeals to an American audience, we sometimes need to work with them on for what they put out in the Middle East or Asia. So my message would be consistent experience for all of our partners, but under the hood, a very, very bespoke operation that treats all of them quite differently.
I really like that consistently bespoke. I've never really thought about it in that way, and I think in a world that's becoming more and more self-serve, it's nice to see an organization get close to their customers and understand what they they need and what they expect, really. But also it's almost consistent processes, really, isn't it? And then making sure that the bespoke bit is around the kind of customer needs and expectations on that individual level.
That's right, yes, and that's really how we've carved out our space in the ecosystem. We've got bigger competitors that are, present in a lot more countries with bigger teams, but they've very much gone down the almost self-serve route. Very much an API play where they can offer big brands, one API and connectivity in a lot of countries. And that works great for certain brands, but the way we've carved out our space is that bespoke approach where, we maybe take a brand into 10 countries and build a really big user base for them, rather than trying to go after 100 at once and be very hands-off. We're very much a turnkey solution. We accompany them all the way. We look after every side of their business in a new country they're going into, and it's been pretty successful for the brands we work with today.
Sounds like it. Great stuff. And James, you touched on your story, your fascinating story at the start about going into Jaguar Land Rover, which of course is one of our organisations we're very proud of across the region, and they've themselves gone through a massive transformation through a traditional automotive organisation to one that now embraces technology and obviously the movement and trend towards EV. What I'm really curious to know is when working in a new and fast market like EV, how do you anticipate the expectations and needs of customers?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's probably a really difficult question to answer. But I think a couple of things that you have to bear in mind when you're, and particularly with us as a startup, but this should apply to any business. I think it's the way that we approach it, and certainly the way that I've approached it, is that don't try and sell a product or find look for the problem to solve and not what product to sell. That's what I'm trying to say here. And I think just using how that's worked with Zoom. When the company was founded, and this is actually before I joined, Greg, our founder, his vision was for a peer-to-peer car sharing platform as Zoom EV car sharing. And the very first thing we did, it was actually, Robert Llewellyn, he runs an event called Fully Charged. He has a very popular YouTube channel called Fully Charged, and they have an event every year. And we attended the very first one, which is now, sadly, we didn't have one this year. So this is 2 years ago, 2018. And at that event, it was more about understanding what an EV driver wants and what they would need out of it. So when I say look for the problem to solve, what we did back in 2018 was extensive research. So we talked to EV drivers, we got feedback from them, and actually what transpired is that out of what we thought was the basis of what Zoom was going to be about, the products that we now have as part of our service have all come out of the extensive research that we did. So sort of backing up my point about looking for the problem and not trying to sell a product. And it led us not just to have the car sharing platform for individuals, but then that's extended to local authorities. So, you know, councils have fleets of cars and vans that just sit idle at weekends and after 5 o'clock. It's got us into auto dealers. So car dealers right across the country have idle assets in terms of demonstrator vehicles that are registered cars that they can get out. So putting those cars on the car sharing platform, so not just limiting it as we thought initially to individual drivers. And then out of that, I talked earlier on about the EV driver benefits bundle, which are all the key things that you need. And it was clear from that research about what do you need, what problem do we need to overcome for you? And the products that we have actually grown out of that extensive research that we did back then. So the EV driver benefits bundle, EV insurance, the experience for people to get insurance for an electric car has been, you know, dreadful and really clunky and not straightforward. And it's kind of, you know, adapting to this new vehicle. I mean, when I insured my first full electric car, which is my own vehicle that I bought having driven company cars for so long, it was clear that insurance is going to be a problem. So we've found a solution for that. The other thing I'd say, and this is kind of I have this try before you buy approach, so letting customers try before you buy, and particularly in, you know, new technology, there's so many myths and barriers and obstacles to people buying electric car, you know, from the sublime to ridiculous. Most ridiculous being you can't drive an electric car in the rain because, you know, you just can't. Electricity and water don't meet. So we do a huge amount to, you know, bust those myths, as it were. And through the car auto dealer groups that we work with here in the UK, the car sharing has been embraced by major groups, and these are some of the biggest car dealers in the UK that now partner with Zoom, and they put their electric car demonstrators onto our platform. And it's this, as I say, try before you buy approach, and not the traditional, here's a salesman sitting beside you, you're under pressure, he's going to tell you all of the things because he feels you're kind of a captive audience. Just letting somebody have it for a day, a weekend, a week is you know, using that. So just to add to that, paying attention to and understanding the future demand for the next needs of current customers, so understanding what they're thinking. And that's all about, I really believe part of the sales process is about building partnerships, and we call our customers partners and like an extension of their business. And you know, I'm sure Christopher and Lisa will agree with me on that. Give them an easy way to share their ideas with us. So make it easy for them to understand and make them feel that this isn't about us selling them, it's about understanding the needs. And then, you know, once we do that, we identify what their needs are. We share that internally, which is an important thing. We then create a product or a service that meets those needs. And then, of course, we collect the feedback. So it's that data back and continually go through that cycle of identify, share, create, and then collect. So that's our approach to it.
And I think it's a great approach. I think kind of, again, there's so many kind of startups and scale-ups in the tech space who, you know, come up with a hypothesis, but don't really spend enough time validating it with real customers and real buyers, and not taking, I guess, customer feedback you know, at face value as well, kind of trying to understand the underlying kind of sentiment that sits there. And on that, Lisa, kind of, you know, we're kind of talking here about kind of qualitative data, but obviously there's kind of quant as well. How at the Prince's Trust do you kind of collect and measure customer experience along the journey, and what do you do with that data?
Yeah, so we have lots of different ways we're understanding experiences of our customers at the minute. So data comes in the form of three ways really, right? So there's direct, indirect and inferred. In terms of direct data, we have, it's actually quite low tech, we have young person forums quite widely in place across the UK and at a national level as well, who we consult with on a regular basis. We also, in terms of our like volunteers and our donors, supporter groups, we have a lot of we have some benchmarking activity that happens in respect to that, and we also have a lot of one-to-one interviews with those individuals. We also monitor our complaints, and we do issue a survey at the end of a programme. So it's intertwined with our impact measurement survey, and so we just issue that through a kind of standard survey collection tool. In terms of indirect, I wish we did stuff with that. So our social media and our online reviews. There obviously is reputational management software out there. We don't use that at the Trust. That's definitely something we would love to start doing. And in terms of inferred, we have mountains of CRM data. We've just invested in some marketing software to help us understand behaviours and journeys of our customers throughout like the marketing life cycle, and we have mountains of call center data as well. So yeah, we understand a lot about experiences, and I think there's definitely more I'd like to be doing in terms of structured feedback programs. And I think, like James, you said, being able to for customers to just give their side of the story in whatever way works for them. So opening up those kind of listening tools is definitely something we want to start doing.
Yeah, I think that's really important that we kind of have those conversations with customers. And Lisa, I'm actually going to come back to you because I just saw you put yourself on mute there. But kind of net promoter score, vanity metric or useful metric?
Oh, oh yes. Personally, not a huge fan of it. I think there are other metrics that definitely support the organisational goals more so than NPS. So in my customer experience history, we definitely found that things like effort and satisfaction always trend with NPS, and actually sometimes are a bit more tangible or relevant to the organisation. So yeah, definitely prefer to use those types of metrics. Yeah, NPS, it's an interesting one, and actually I've come across a lot of organisations that kind of change the way that NPS is calculated. So you can't always trust that metric in external reporting. Lots of people like to shout about 90-something% NPS, but yeah, fairly unrealistic, most likely calculated incorrectly. So yeah, I'm not a huge advocate for NPS, I have to say.
No, that's really interesting. I mean, I won't name the organisation, but I worked alongside an organisation and we did a piece of research for them. By the way, Lisa and I in a past life used to be competitors, and we both worked in the SaaS space for two customer experience measurement tools based in Birmingham and Coventry, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Two of the biggest kind of definitely in the UK right then, but probably kind of across the world as well. So yeah, small world. But I guess kind of Chris, I want to come to you now and just kind of building again on that point around what Lisa said, where with like a net promoter score. What I found as well is customer experience is great and measuring it's great, but actually at the end of the day, it comes down to results, right? And the most important thing is revenue and profitability. So how do you link your customer experience initiatives and your relationships with your customers to that? And also, and I suppose a follow-on question, how do you then use technology to ensure that the dots are connected across the organization?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I'm going to come back to a few sort of touch points from around the table. I mean, to start with, to James's point, we really talk about partners and not customers. And really, I peg all of our results to partner relationships. If I look at the 40 mobile operators we work with around the world, the ones where we have the strongest relationships are the ones where we drive the most revenue. And the ones that are the smaller revenue lines are typically the ones where, we're not able to get out and see them as often, or they're not as open to meeting with partners as they might be. So for me, it's all about partner relationship. In terms of technology, as a commercial team, we need to get out and see our partners or do a Zoom call with our partners of late on a monthly basis. And you know, as a commercial person, the last thing you want to do is spend hours and hours compiling data to put together what you're going to present to your partner. So we've put a lot of time into building the tools so that we can extract monthly data for any one of our partners, and of course, you know, then spend time presenting the data and the talking points and what you want to get out there as a message to the partner. So, you know, in terms of tools, we've got a very big, powerful integration with Salesforce, which runs all of our end user support across the globe. So that's been a big investment in our business, you know, in terms of the hours and costs that have gone into what is a very, very powerful, very bespoke tool. What that allows the commercial team to do, as I say, is pull off a very quick monthly report and know how you're scoring in terms of how customers are interacting with us. From a you know, business and revenue data point of view, we've got a number of tools in the business to track revenue, to model lifetime value. So, you know, a lot of our partners operate OTT services on a subscription basis. What's really important for them is calculating what a customer's worth over their lifetime. So we've got some quite bespoke tools through that, you know, similar sort of thing to a Salesforce, where you've got a basic integration, or you can make, you know, you make it do all kinds of things. We've got something very similar with a you know, sort of Microsoft Power BI for some of our data modeling. The last one I'll maybe talk about, if we're really talking about the tech that helps us, we use a tool called Mixpanel. I hadn't come across it 2 or 3 years ago. We brought it in as a tool to very simply track what users did inside our branded products once they made a payment and wanted to start, you know, watching a WWE video or an NBA video. And it came in as a really simple, you know, user behavior tracking. We very quickly realized we could track the whole customer journey from seeing an advert right up to, you know, leaving a service that they'd subscribed to. And so it very quickly became almost our sort of off-the-shelf data warehouse and user insight tool. And, you know, I know you've had our CTO on panel discussions this week, so I won't take his place, but, you know, we typically think about, you know, a sort of a buy it or build it approach to a lot of the technology we have. And with something like a Mixpanel, that was definitely a buy it. This is such a powerful off-the-shelf tool. You know, we just couldn't build anything as efficient very quickly. And again, you know, to my point, that allows the commercial team, when they're going into a monthly catch-up with a partner, to pull a very quick report based on metrics all across that particular partner, and you know, be spending their time putting together the discourse and not pulling the data.
Yeah, I think that's important, isn't it, to have that real-time information being fed into customers so they can kind of, you know, they don't keep having to, you know, knock on your door and say, hey, what's going on? Kind of, you know, I need this insight, you know, it's been fed constantly to them. So you can really kind of focus on, you know, what you need to be doing, the important things across the organization. So I think it's really a good example of how technology can make, you know, ultimately any technology should make people's lives easier, whether that's internal people or, you know, customers or partners, really. And James, kind of one of the things I'm kind of keen to know from your point of view, and we've got a lot of entrepreneurs and kind of, you know, people that are working in tech on some new and exciting stuff, you know, how they go on to kind of, you know, be at the forefront of tech. And you know, how do they become a successful entrepreneur that goes on to sell a tech business?
Yeah, well, that is a good question. And as I say, having gone from, you know, starting up a business and right through and you know, obviously in the tech space, and future mobility is what we'll call it. I guess the way to approach it is what I've learned personally, and I you know, people often ask me, well, why did you start? How did you start? How did you, you know, go all this full circle? And I think I have I've kind of, in my head, I've always got 10 things, I guess. My top 10, if you were asking me to advise somebody starting a business or thinking about starting a business, which I'd encourage them to do, and if they've got a good idea, and particularly with in tech, it's there's so many exciting opportunities. I mean, my background is automotive, so obviously everything I've done has been focused on what I do, and it's a very old saying from my grandmother, which was sorry, my grandfather. And it was stick to your knitting. It was like, you do what you know. And, I knew about automotive and 12-volt charging. So that list then, the key things that I've experienced and I've learnt from, and I would put down to, the level of success I've had in building up and selling and then going forward and starting again. The number one, the key thing is to always have a solid business plan. That's kind of fundamental, and a clear vision. So that's really, you've got to start there. Make sure that's absolutely robust and really solid. And then another thing that I would say, and this is something that when I started, I mean, I'm not allowed to swear on this, but I was petrified about taking that leap of faith. It was like, should I? Because I'd worked for some big organizations in the past. I'd been, I'd had that, if you like, buffer or that pillow around me and the support and established businesses. So the next one is what I call believe in yourself and your ability. So that's have the plan, believe in yourself. And another thing, and again, this has been through real sleepless nights and things because I hadn't planned properly, was prepare for financial challenges. Because it's not all about you set up a business and then right, where's the money? You have to plan for this. So be prepared, because it is a challenge, and if you're aware of that and go into it with that's something to help. So preparation is that, and getting good advice is important from a financial point of view. And then of course, talking about the financial planning is always remember that you're a startup. And I remember again, early days, I think, I'm the managing director of my business. I can have, no, you've got to have the revenue. If you're not earning it, you can't afford it. So spend wisely is another thing that, again, and I've learned this through my own experience of doing this. Another thing I'd say is never be afraid to ask for help. Just don't be afraid, ask for help, wherever it is. But don't be afraid to ask for help. And again, sometimes you think, I'm just too embarrassed to ask for help because I'm not sure about things. But I say to people who ask me, I've got a question I'm a bit embarrassed to ask. And I always say, the fact you're asking a question means you want to know. So, never be afraid to ask for help. And then just a couple of more points. Look after yourself. Look after number one. That's really important. Take care of yourself. Fitness, sleep, all these things, because you do think, I was just spending, almost some days, all waking hours, just working. So, look after yourself, look after number one. And I'm thinking of, health and mental health and, fitness and sleep. Very important. And then as you grow, build a team around you that shares your vision. I mean, there's nothing worse than having people that just don't get what you're trying to achieve. That's no good. So, but build a team that shares your vision and also your passion. I'm extremely passionate about the electric car industry, and I've seen that grow. And there were people 10 years ago that said, James, it'll never fly. And then they're coming back to me 10 years later saying, how do I invest in your business? Because they see what you do. Walt Disney said something which, again, when I first started, I used to have written on my wall, and it was quit talking, start doing. And that's a Walt Disney quote. Just get on and do it. Don't talk about it, get on and do it. Last two, learn from your mistakes. I mean, I've made mistakes, but I've learned from those mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. You definitely will make mistakes, but it's how you deal with what's happened and how you come out of it stronger. That's very important. And finally, and we've touched on this, all the three of my colleagues on the panel here today, always listen to your customer or your potential customer. And that's my kind of James's top 10 tips for entrepreneurship. There you go.
What a great top 10 tips they are, James. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, so some great nuggets in there. We'll just take two of them actually and come to Lisa. Passion. I know you're very passionate about customer experience, Lisa. And the other one being kind of obviously get close to your customers. You talked a little bit about kind of what you're doing at the Prince's Trust now, but of course, this week's all about the future. What does the future of customer experience look like at the Prince's Trust, especially given that kind of young people, especially their needs and expectations are changing rapidly, especially kind of given what we've all been through?
Yeah, definitely. Well, the future of customer experience at the Trust, I hope it just gets bigger and better. We absolutely want to be starting to ask more and listen more, to James's point, at those key transactional points of the journey, and be getting that insight across the business much more effectively. Yeah, listening is really, really key, and really thinking about who our customers are and what mindsets they're in at the minute. We're doing lots of work at improving our personas that we have at the minute, building on those to really, really incorporate mindsets and thinking about all of our user journeys off the back of those, and what we can be doing to improve and align to those mindsets that we have now. So yeah, I think, but in terms of customer experience data, I certainly want to be expanding our collection tools and our insights in that area.
Yeah, and I think kind of that holistic approach provides so much value across the entire organisation to kind of multiple stakeholders. And I actually just want to kind of give a bit of a shout out to the Prince's Trust, because one of the key areas that we're involved in is kind of digital skills, and we all know that right now young people kind of need those digital skills to be able to kind of operate and succeed in a changing world. And kind of Dowie and Rose, the Prince's Trust, do a phenomenal job of kind of making sure young people have those digital skills, but also in hard to reach areas, which I think is really important as well. So I just wanted to give a shout out to kind of the extended team there at Prince's Trust for the work they do.
Yeah, thank you. And and they actually wanted me to say as well about like some of the if anyone's interested in supporting us, like we're definitely looking for people that can support us with helping young people with digital skills, and particularly if anyone's employing at the minute, partnering with us to get young people into employment in that area, it would be amazing. Please do get in touch. I'm on LinkedIn, or you can go on the Prince's Trust website and contact our contact centre through live chat or phone. But yeah, it'd be fantastic to if anyone out there has any can support us in that way.
Great stuff. No, we'll make sure we get it across all our channels as well, because yeah, you do such a wonderful job. So kind of just going back to Chris. Chris, look, you work with some really cool and exciting brands. You know, they're always constantly thinking about the future. What's the future of PM Connect look like? You know, when it comes to kind of technology, innovation, and digital, but also the kind of, again, the changing landscape of customer need and expectations.
I think for us, the future is already here in terms of the way that people want to consume entertainment, sports, lifestyle, TV, video. You know, we've pivoted to an OTT world where people are watching traditional channels less and less and going straight to the source. So I think what we see out there is a massive increase in the OTT landscape that's you know been pioneered by Netflix and Spotify, but is now branching out into anyone that has content they want to put into the palm of someone's hand. The future for us is a very international one. You know, we've developed a big base of business in Africa already. We've just hired more people into that region, and we're looking at markets where really people have really sort of bypassed having a computer at home and have jumped straight to having a smartphone in the palm of their hand, and that is their one and only access to the internet. So for us, yeah, the future is a lot about emerging markets. It's also about offering best customer experience, you know, on mobile and with telcos in the established markets that we're in. So we're not just about developing the markets we're in Africa and Asia. We're also about the established markets in Europe, where the mobile operator is still a massive touch point for an awful lot of customers out there. So yeah, we are all about our big OTT partners, and we're all about growing more and more internationally.
Great stuff, Chris. Thanks for that. And you've got a question here from Rupinder. How do you go about identifying the right customers? So yeah, Chris, I'll come to you first, and then we'll kind of go down the panel.
You know, it's an interesting proposition for us in that we operate at a B2C level where we go and identify individual consumers that we think are likely to be fans of one of our partner brands, like the NBA. We also operate at a B2B level where we're looking for the right customer, or rather the right partner. So to separate out the two, I mean, in terms of how we get our outreach to a very targeted market, the advertising platforms available to us today, you know, the power of the Google and the Facebook platforms is absolutely huge and getting more and more powerful every day. There's a lot of debate out there over quite how accurately a Google or a Facebook can target an ad to you. I think if we put that debate to one side, because we could have a whole other panel discussion about that, the power it offers to you as an advertiser is absolutely immense. And you know, any part of the world we're in, our team can go and find the person who's maybe, you know, been a little bit interested in an NBA but never made a step up to being a paying NBA customer. In a very different way, you know, how do we roadmap our B2B partners? You know, that's very much led by where do the brands we work with want to expand. And that's, you know, we work with a lot of American partners who, you know, have maybe reached a ceiling of their fans in North America, but have barely dipped their toes in the water in other parts of the world. And that's where they're seeing their next phase of growth coming from. So we're very much partner-led in terms of what our roadmap looks like and where we want to go globally. I hope that answers the question.
It does indeed, yeah, it's great. And I, again, kind of going to go down the panel and see if there's any kind of agreement or kind of opposing views or different views. So James, kind of, we'll go to you next.
Yeah, good. Really good points there, Christopher. I'll just touch on one, you know, in terms of how you engage and how you get customers. One really interesting experience we had at Zoom as a startup. We've recently just been through a fundraising event via crowdfunding, through a company called Crowdcube. So it gets all the crowds and cubes and funds all get mixed up, which has been a really exciting event for us and the team. One of the things that came out of that, in terms of how you engage with people, we exceeded the raise that we were planning. But the interesting thing was we had over 600 subscribers, or actually investors is the right word, to our crowd fundraising. So we concluded the raise. We were overfunded, which was a fantastic experience. The support we had was unbelievable, and of course, in a market like the electric car uptake, which is growing anyway, it's not that difficult to find people that are interested in what you're doing. And you know, there's so much interest in this future technology. But really interesting that we engage with 600 people that you know wanted to be part of the journey and actually invested in us. and some of those people will be getting electric cars, will then use our services, are interested in what we do, but equally feel part of the family as well. And I think, going back to that thing about, listening and understanding and bringing them. For us, like yourselves, it's B2C and B2B. So, you have to remember things like, fundamental things. When you talk to B2C, the price you quote includes VAT. That's the price of it. When you're talking to B2C, it's always you're kind of taking VAT off and adding VAT on. So that's an interesting thing. But in terms of the two types of markets, yes, it is different in how but we engage with our business to consumer. So we attend a lot of events when we were able to attend, and all being well next year, these events will come back on. Even down to things like in the EV space, there are lots of regional EV groups. I mean, some extremely passionate people about the uptake, and want to show off their electric car to their neighbours, and they become real ambassadors of taking this. And last summer we attended an event in Coventry, and it was actually called EVs in the Park. And 400 electric car drivers turned up at a public park in Coventry with their beautiful EVs, and the whole day had a kind of carnival, and we were there and engaging with people. And it's, again, you just have those conversations with people. We're not there to sell some, we're there to engage with them, and then you pick up the ideas and you get the contacts. And that there's been a number of initiatives that we've taken on. I didn't see the crowdfunding contact list, but yeah, over 600 people.
That's great. And I think that's kind of the power of kind of, going into those right networks and communities. Kind of, my old boss used to say, fish where the fish are. And it's kind of so true, right? And also the power of word of mouth as well, kind of doing, if you deliver a good service and customer experience for your customers, they will tell other people, and therefore you'll spend less time having to identify the right customers in the first place, because they will come to you. And Lisa, kind of, it's an interesting one with the Prince's Trust, because I guess you already know who your ideal customers are. Your challenge is getting to them, right?
Well, it's kind of, you say that, but I think historically we've been quite focused on young people that have a deficit or a need in their life. So what's going wrong? Where do they need support? And actually we're starting to pivot to think more about preferences and aspirations and behaviours, and capturing a broader spectrum of young person, because really our programs can support anyone, not just those that have a real need, but somebody that might consider themselves from a fairly established great background still needs support as well. So we are pivoting the way we're approaching identifying our customers.
Great. I've got a really challenging question here from Jacob. I'm going to throw into the mix for all of you. It's just a bit of fun. Jacob says, as the old adage goes, the customer is always right. But is this true? I'm going to allow anyone.
I'd never be one to say that a customer is wrong. Let's put it this way. Whether it's right that he is always right, you would certainly never make the customer think that he was wrong. That's for sure. And I think it's how you approach the response to that. And I mean, again, I've been in some, really challenging situations, customer-facing situations where, you are almost like opposite ends of the globe in terms of, where your thinking is. But at the end of the day, they're the customer, and that's what you have to remember. So sometimes you just have to bite your tongue.
Definitely.
Yeah, 100% agree. And I think I used to have a colleague that always said their perception is their reality, and that's so true. And yeah, it's how you respond as an organisation to that.
100%. Yeah.
And again, you're always representing your customer, because you are then the face of that customer. And again, you're an ambassador for your business. So it's very important that there is the adage, as you say, the customer's always right. But actually, sometimes in terms of what you're trying to achieve, they're not, but you certainly would find a way diplomatically to get around that.
Definitely. Chris, any final thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I'd echo what the others have said. Really, we certainly would never tell any of our partners that they're wrong. if we know that they are, then we would always aim to educate and put across our point of view, and hopefully let them go away to move to the right decision or mindset.
Very interesting. And I like what Chris Winley's put in the chat here. The customer may be right, but not right for you. So yeah, very kind of wise words there indeed. So just as we wrap up and come to the hour, I'm just going to go down the panel and 30 seconds, final kind of words and kind of advice around kind of customer experience and relationships. Lisa, we'll start with you.
Oh, I think just get, if you're not doing it already, just get started with it in any way that you can, and any small kind of amount of listening is really, really valuable. I think no matter how well you know your organisation and the product or service that you're delivering, customers are always going to have that additional level of insight that's going to really help you drive your business, grow your business. So yeah, in any small way, just start doing it if you're not already.
Great, thank you. Chris?
Look, I'd come back to a little of what I said earlier. When you're going out and meeting your customers, whoever they may be, make sure you've got the right tools at your disposal. Make sure you've got the right data. Make sure that's really readily available to you. So you're thinking about the conversation with your customer and what the data means, rather than spending time digging data out. And I'd say, you know, certainly from my experience over the last few years, you know, whether it's the people you're sending out to meet customers or whether it's building the team that pick up the phone, recruit the best, surround yourself by the absolute best people to go and do that, the best relationship builders, and a lot of the business will look after itself.
Very true, very true. And finally, kind of to you, James.
I just come off mute. Yeah, I nearly said yes. It's www.zoom-ev.com. So was I not allowed to say that? No, 3 things: listen to the customers, react to the customers, and build the partnerships.
Great, wonderful. All that's left for me to say really is a big thank you to our panelists today. So we've got Lisa Vicary from the Prince's Trust, James Jean-Louis from Zoom EV, and Christopher Purdie from PM Connect. Thank you all for joining me today. Thank you to our audience. Got some thank yous coming through there, and enjoy the rest of Tech Week. See you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks very much.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.